we are going to go ahead and work on gridding out our portraiture. And so I use a grid usually when I need to focus on maybe the technique and want to draw something out rather quickly but accurately. I use it maybe the most often with portraits, but other than that, I really don't use it very often. But like I said, you can use it if you need something to go a little bit faster. But just keep in mind that since you are drawing a grid, that you want to make sure that you do it very lightly so that you can easily erase it, since you don't want it to be visible once you draw out your artwork. Sometimes I like drawing the grid on an additional sheet of paper and then tracing the image through a window like we did with the last assignment. But we can't do that with the illustration board. So everyone is drawing on a piece of gray mouse illustration board. It's actually mixed media board. And so it should say on the back of it, Crescent Mouse Dry Mixed Media. It has a medium weight, so it's a thick board, and it's 15 by 20. So if you remember, that's the size that we cropped our image so that it will fit exactly. Many people, when they put their grid on their image through Photopea or the tutor, didn't do it properly. So you should have 10 squares down. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And you should have 7.5, right, on the short end. So please make sure to count those. You can even label them if it helps you to organize your space. Oh, I don't know why I started doing that. I think I was thinking about it. If you had a lot of itty bitty little details, some of you might have half-inch grid, so you would have 20 down and 15 across, but most people are going to apply it this way. We used Photopea. I often also just use these overlays on top of an image through acetate. And so I often do this when I'm working in my studio at home. That way I don't put the grid on the actual image. We also have that saved. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna make the image twice as large. So if this is a 1-inch grid, 1 times 2 is 2. So you're gonna take your ruler right along the edge, right? Make sure it's nice and straight. And I want you to make tick marks every 2 inches. So 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14. And you should notice that that 1 inch should be on the same edge as it is on the paper, right? So then I'm gonna go down the sides. I'm gonna do the same thing. So take the ruler, right? So 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14. Be as exact as possible. There's no point in drawing a grid if it's crooked. Okay, since this is by 20, I run out of space, and so that last 2 inches at the bottom are left over. Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and move my board, right, and do the other long 20 side, same way. So here I can put the ruler on the very edge. Always, always, always measure off the edge so that your imagery is straight and not crooked. I'm doing this in a 4B pencil so that you guys can see it. But you want to draw this really light so that you can erase it. Okay, and then keep going every 2 inches. So it's going to be square when you're done here. I'm going to go ahead and flip this so that you guys can see it. But I just want to point out that the whole inch is on the left side now. And so I got to make sure that it's also here as well. So I'm going to have the 1, right? And then I'm going to go 2, 4, So it's really important that that 1 inch segment is on the same side. You don't want them on opposite sides. So let's see, can you guys see it? 1 inch, 1 inch, they line up on each side. Okay, so since you have your ruler at home is an 18-incher, you're gonna have to do the 15-inch side first. So I'm on the short side. My iPad isn't tall enough for you to be able to see it, but let me show you. What I would do is line the ruler up at the top, right? And then I would put my pencil down. Okay, so I put my ruler lined up perfectly at the top. I put my pencil down on the tick mark, and then I let the ruler slide and hit it, and then I go up. So you're gonna draw, sorry for the bouncing, I hit the arm. Make sure that they are perfectly lined up, all right? Make sure you're lining up with your tick marks perfectly, because once again, if it's crooked, there's no point in using the grid. So I line up at the top, put my pencil down, make the pencil hit, or the ruler hit the pencil. Okay, hit my thumb right there. So I'm gonna go back in and fix that. Oop, did it again. See how it easily erases now that, right? So you can't see those lines anymore. Now, if you have a yardstick at home, feel free to grab it, or if you have a longer ruler, because you're lucky, you might want to go ahead and do that. But I can't stretch it across this way and have it line up. So what I'm going to go ahead and do is I'm going to orientate it back, right? I'm going to orientate it back and like close to the middle. I'm going to redo those 2-inch marks. So on the side with the 2, I'm going to do 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14. So then I'm going to connect So I have a yardstick at home, but I'm going to do it the way you have to do it. Please, please, please make sure that you're using those tick marks. If it's off or it's crooked, you're going to have to fix it. So now I'm going to finish up and carefully connect the rest of it here. So let's see, that was a little off. So let me see what the deal is here. There we go, now I fixed it. Now because I used a 4B pencil, mine's just smudging a little bit with my fingers. So just be extra careful that you don't have too much pencil smudges. Okay, but it is something we can correct and erase later. So I need to make sure that when I go ahead and get started drawing, that I have the same amount. I can go ahead and label this, so A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, right? It's the same as here. And I can count down 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Okay. And so then what I'm going to go ahead and do is start to draw. So there's nothing in the very first 4 squares, so I'm not going to draw anything. And then I have this symbol here for my son's soccer team. And so sometimes imagery is maybe not important to the overall image, but since my son really loved this club, I'm going to include it in my drawing. So I'm going to go ahead and notice where that lines up. So it's not quite the half, kind of like the quarter of it. So I can do little tick marks there. And then it touches the bottom line. So I'm going to go ahead and draw the basic shape of this soccer logo. Okay, I'm going to draw that basic shape in. And then there is where the text is. Kind of goes across like this. And I can fix it as I go. Right, so I'm starting with like basic shapes first. And then as I move down, I see a little bit of his hat kind of fading into the darkness. And so it's kind of stops there. And so since I can't see it, I'm just going to draw what I see. And I know that's sometimes a little bit challenging for us. We always want to draw everything in, but that's okay because it'll eventually go into the black. And so then I'm going to draw his stocking hat, which is slightly above the middle. I'm going to go in and add the basic details, right? And I'm going to draw them in proportion. So here's actually a little bit of his skin. And so I want to make sure that I draw the outer details. Okay. And then once I actually get to something more specific, like maybe his eyes, you could always go in and divide this up into even smaller quadrants. So I do this a lot. I'll either do it in pencil, but just be real careful when you erase it, or I'll do it in marker or color pencil on the overhead, and I can divide this up into even smaller parts so that I can make sure that his eye is proportional. So where is his eye, overall in this entire image? I don't want to draw it too big. I don't want to draw it too small. I can do that too in areas like the nose or areas like the mouth to really help me with proportion, but also keep in mind that his face is foreshortened. Right? So his nose lines up here at that center line and slopes down. Right? So I'm going to take my time and work on this square by square in order to draw the details. Okay? So I see when I was recording that this didn't show, so I apologize for that. So what I basically have been doing is looking at where some of these details line up, right, in relation to each other. So let's go back here down to where his chin is going to be. Notice that this part is in 3 and connects to the corner, and then his chin, right, lines up pretty much with the middle, and I'm going to draw that shape in, right? These are areas that I can then later go back in and add more and more detail to. So I'll eventually add his lips and his mouth in here too.